So, hi everyone. We just finished a big game of Virgin Queen. We had 6 players, played the whole thing, took about, 9 hours? Yeah. Just thought we'd kind of have a bit of a breakdown of what we had, what we experienced, because I think a bunch of us here have played this before. Your first time, Ed? Is this your first
My
time with
first
Virgin?
time, yep.
You have played Here I Stand before with us?
Yep.
So, we're different levels of experience at this table, and appreciate Mike for hosting as well. He GM'd a little bit of the kind of charts and tables and printed out some excellent handouts. But first off, big thanks to everyone. This is really fun. This to me is the kind of pinnacle of what gaming is about, is getting everyone together and playing these kinds of awesome games. And I thought this was really interesting because we saw a lot of very different things, I think, than from what are typical, but it was as engaging as this game can ever be. With, someone was ahead, and then they got dogpiled, and then someone else was in the lead, and then the scores at the end were, I think, at the end of turn 3, everyone was like within 2 points, and it was crazy close. So it was like, someone's getting ahead of victory points, but then someone's close to auto victory with geography, and then the Holy War was like swinging one way, and so there was lots of different ways that people were trying to win, and that was awesome in this. I think that was really
well.
That was
cool. And isn't the best part of these games? I mean, I think they are. We sit here for 9-10 hours. We're yelling at each other. We're making fun of each other. Nice sport coat, by the way. Blazer in the basement. Having a great time, strategizing, discussion going on, negotiating. I don't know. It's just, this is what it's about, right? This is why these games are made.
And as soon as you're done, you think about how you want to play it differently next time.
Yeah.
Or maybe I want to try this faction. I want to try, what they did a little differently.
Well, if an example of that, I'm really glad I got to play the Protestants. I played them the last time I played this game, and my rolls were so bad that it was a Catholic auto victory. And I'm glad I got a chance to almost redeem myself. It was
so ugly,
embarrassing how bad it was.
Yeah, it was bad.
I just couldn't. And so
I actually felt bad.
Like playing the same faction again, it has its merits. Trying something new also has its merits as well. And there's so much additional stuff in this game versus something like Here I Stand. So I think there's a lot more intricacy and like rules uptake with a lot of the chrome. But I really like it in this. I love that for what it is.
So any new observations about the different factions, maybe some of the complexities, the difficulties, the challenges they have that maybe you hadn't seen before?
I thought what was interesting was seeing France play.
Played very well. Frankly.
Yeah, because a lot of the time
For the new guy,
the France gets dogged because they're in wars with England, or like the Spanish might decide that they want to conquer France, or a few catastrophes here or there. If the HRA goes for Metz, they can get behind real quick. But we had a really strong France, at least from a victory point and like a internal strength point. That was really cool to see.
And I think at the end, France had the most victory points.
Yeah, they did.
Pretty
They had
significantly
21 or 22.
Right. And if
I think I was at 17,
yeah.
22, yeah.
Right. And just a variety of ways to get those victory points. Really flexible in that regard.
And that last turn where France has 22, so they're 3 from the victory. HRE is 1 key from the auto, and the Protestants are 6 conversions from
3
religious
conversions.
victories.
Because you got 3 last.
Right, you got 3. So at the beginning of that roll,
And ironically, he had 2-4 ops cards.
So if he'd have goofed on Naples, I probably would have won on the very next round. But that's
great drama.
Yeah, especially for 9 hours of play, getting through what we did. That was great fun.
And 3 completely different paths to victory.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I also think the thing I really liked about this game is I felt like there was a lot of flip-flopping on the diplomatic influence table.
There was.
Whereas a lot of games, that's kind of static, or maybe like 1 flips. I feel like we had, a lot of that going on. That's really fun to see a lot of that in the game. That was really enjoyable.
Sympathy for England had to deal with Scottish revolt, Irish revolt.
Well, and then
wasn't hitting
having their Navy get blitzed over and over by the French.
right off the bat. It didn't go well for the French, but
No, it didn't, but it was
They
like,
still thumped him.
yeah, crazy.
Did England have
I should have taken Edinburgh right off the bat, since we were already in war. I did
It's
not.
so hard, though. It's so hard.
Right. And then had 3 unrests thrown there right in the middle of England, which cuts off all transportation or movement through those hexes. When I made peace, I decided to kind of rotate towards another avenue, towards a new world, set up a colony. And I was really impressed with all the different, and it didn't avail me of anything.
Alex poops on
But,
it.
but I was impressed and excited to see how many different ways there were to win. The Holy Roman Emperor sat here for how long, collecting VPs.
Who had you gambled on as
without
well?
really.
Oh, I chose
Catholic.
Yeah, he
Catholics.
Oh.
Catholics.
because
Sensible. That's a sensible gamble.
But remember, Craig normally is a 5 and 6 rolling machine.
And I'm normally very bad
Yes.
on our launch.
So
this.
I went that way because I thought, oh, there's no way Craig's
He's just
not
gonna roll him.
Yeah, he's going to dominate.
But then he just didn't do any.
Well, he didn't do any holy war for the first 2 turns. I was like starting to swap. I'm like, oh, this is over.
Did England have a Navy at the end, or did you already pull your ships
Oh, he's
off?
No, they're still there.
Yeah,
I got,
three
and I got Drake out there.
And like this
So-
would have been interesting with the Spanish Armada.
and that's what I was
Yes,
afraid of too. I thought the Spanish were coming right at me. So.
And I was worried about you coming down, so that's why we're building up.
And
That's
the Armada ready
hilarious.
to go?
But the
I
first
was out there,
turn,
yeah.
That's hilarious. The Craig just said he was worried about you. Goes, so what you
Right.
thought was a build-up for offense was Spain playing defense.
Yeah.
But that,
And so you both get
that's what's so
Yeah,
good
in
about
the arms
this game.
race.
And
is
maybe-
the arms race is
Yeah.
like.
And I think this was a game where I saw just about everybody was doing multiple things throughout the game
Yeah.
instead of, 1 or 2 players, me probably being the other times I played, just kind of focusing on one thing. Playing
Right.
all of the different angles, science, arts, everything.
How many? Because I sponsored 2 artists and 2 engineers.
There was a lot of engagement in that.
How much did? I don't feel like many other people did a whole lot.
I
You didn't
did.
do
I
much.
did.
You tried to do the
I
I did one
last-
scientist and one.
Okay, so there, and did Ottomans do any?
I
of
had
it?
one artist.
Okay, I was surprised that there wasn't more of that. Like, you never did it.
No, but
You're trying to fight.
I'm
the
too.
war.
Yeah, I was too
I
busy.
get it.
But this might have been. We had at least 2 actual science bonuses picked.
Yeah,
I had one too, yeah.
Or 3, so that was cool because I feel like sometimes people are just like, oh, let's take
Yeah.
the VP.
Well, and mine was the extra die on a assault when I'm on the defense. That's pretty valuable.
that's
Yeah, some of them are real good.
What was your technology?
I got 2 fortresses on 1 turn.
Nice.
England's was
I got
free
the
colony
bonus
with
on,
every expedition
colony.
had plus
Oh, yeah.
1 on his die roll.
Yeah, that's pretty
And I
nice.
had to think about the excavation technology that would have helped me with the Suez Canal, but that's a long-term project, and
Yeah.
I felt early on I didn't
How
have
many
the
VPs?
resources.
Yeah, does Suez
It's
give you
2, I think 2 per turn
Wow.
After you build it,
after it's built.
and usually I've seen it be done like around turn 3 or 4.
I mean, you got to run hard at it, so then
Yeah.
it pays off.
and then you get 2 to 4 VP.
It takes some good die rolls.
Yeah, it
and
does.
You can't count
And
on
that's
those.
tough because I feel like anytime I've ever played Here I Stand or Virgin Queen, those games always end in turn 4 or 5. So if you're going for something that's really long term to pay off in 5, 6, and 7,
That's tough.
it's hard. It's hard
Yeah.
for me to see those.
And part of it's reading the table. If you're playing with aggressive players, you can't count on a long game.
Yeah.
And I think we had some aggressive players.
the first turn.
They was pretty.
Well, I would say the one thing you asked, what surprised me, we didn't fight at all, right? The Ottomans and the HRE
Yeah.
did not fight at all because we had kind of a discussion at the beginning and almost agreed to go for Spain, and then I tried to make you.
Well, and I got real close. I was within
Oh, you
one-
were one key.
Yeah, he was one key away from auto in turn 2.
But it
I
was
think.
so interesting for us never to attack each other.
Even when he wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it ended up making sense really because Spain swept the Ottomans completely from the Mediterranean, and I was really back on my heels, so I couldn't have really spared the resources to try to fight you as well.
Yeah. I feel like that's the Ottomans, right? They go hard on piracy early, or they go hard on
Mhm.
Vienna.
Yeah, one or the other.
You can't really do both.
Mhm.
Right.
I mean, you can dabble, but just really interesting. And I asked this question. I think the question is, which of the 2 do you prefer? We play Here I Stand a lot. We play Virgin Queen. What's everyone's thought? This was your first game.
Correct.
I want to know your opinion as well, because I think that's pretty key. Craig, what?
I've only played Here I Stand, I think, twice, and this 3 times. I think what Nate said earlier, the Here I Stand is just a little bit more straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. It's maybe just because it's a little simpler. This game was, I felt like after the third turn or second turn, I was completely reactionary. I lost total control of anything. And again, I did push hard,
Yeah,
trying to win.
that's fair. Mike, what about you?
I'm weird. It's not fair. I'm fair. Either one.
Either one,
I'm,
okay.
I'm even on it.
Nate's the same way.
Well, I mean, there are things I appreciate about both of them. You know, Here I Stand feels more straightforward, fewer systems to try to manipulate, and that's where I kind of get lost with this. It's just, hey, should I spend some time with patronage? Should I do some diplomacy? It's just hard to know where to focus your resource a little bit.
Yeah. Because ultimately, you don't have unlimited resources.
You don't, right?
When you get a bad hand of cards, oh my gosh!
And
how many times did you get ones? You played more ones than I think I've ever seen.
And then the bad die roll. So if you're going for
yeah.
something more of a long-term investment, that can get
Yeah.
shot real quick. But I mean, I'll play either. I think they're
Okay.
both fun.
Mark, you've
I'm
both?
limited on both, one time each
Okay.
game. This one has a lot more of those little nuances that can change the whole question game. Here I Stand, I played the Ottomans. I built up a big fleet, and I did really well. And it just didn't seem like there would be some little modifier or some little nuance to the game that would change the whole complexion. I mean, for good and bad, but that makes this exciting too. And I'd have to say I'm equal on both of them so far,
Okay.
with what I know.
Yeah, I would play either of them drop of the hat. I think I prefer the theme of Here I Stand. Like I love that the actual Reformation and the characters in that, the people in that.
Yeah.
Like and
They were real life people.
Yes. The granularity of those debaters and the debates and Burnville Estate, that's wonderful. But I do think the broader religion mechanic is much more involved and complex.
It also absorbs only 2 factions.
And I really
In that
like how
contest.
streamlined
They're
the war of religion is in this.
Right.
Well, and that's just it, right? Here I Stand. I feel like the war of religion is just so involved.
Yeah.
It's very similar to everyone else's actions.
They
it's
did
just
a,
a part of
they
what
did
you
a
do.
really good job of changing the mechanic
Yeah.
to make it easier and quicker, basically.
Yeah,
But they-
streamlined. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but this also has the great flavor. Like we had Roanoke colony established, and then immediately the Lost Colony mandatory event went. Like
Yeah,
that little
hilarious.
piece of history happened. Like the
That
little
was-
bits
that
like
was
that are
very
just so fun and great.
Yeah.
So what about rules or mechanics that that you feel like you've mastered more having played it multiple times that you maybe struggled with early on, or what are some things even in this session where you feel like we just missed it? I think there were a few things we had with England that we messed up this time, weren't there?
Yeah, well, very simple thing. So it's dumb. Like Elizabeth gets an extra card. You didn't get it for cards.
But if you've got your home card on top of it, you don't necessarily.
Yeah.
You might
Right,
forget
and
that.
I
And I
did
think
that, yeah.
that's what we were forgetting from time to time in this. Is it was the
Easy.
+1 modifier,
Yeah.
the additional little thing.
Didn't
as
you
opposed
card?
to
Didn't you also not get a
Yeah.
card
Well,
for a
right.
turn or two?
Yeah, because I didn't. I wasn't paying attention to the ruler.
Yeah.
Did you see I get one extra card?
Don't say that. Don't.
but then like
I'm just going to call it. I won.
But like the
I would've
broader
won.
like combat
Victory.
mechanics and moving and levying guys, I'm very familiar with those. So that stuff is easier to remember. But it's like, when you're doing piracy, okay, is this piracy in the New World? Is it piracy in the Mediterranean?
Yeah.
There's a slight difference between those two, and make sure we don't get those confused.
How you use treasures for extending an impulse.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a very cool concept. I love that.
Yeah.
And
Takes a
We
while
got the
to get it
religious
figured
rules
out.
wrong for a couple
Yeah.
turns.
yeah, and it's like, and it's the when you do this, it does this and this, and you forget the and this. Because it's a bit more buried in that paragraph.
Cough, cough,
when you-
player's aid, cough, cough.
Yeah, well, that's the real issue I think with this and Here I Stand is
It's just
you gotta get a better player aid,
Yeah.
or you gotta have more of them. And you
Well,
could
if it
flesh some of this out with those details that would hopefully make it harder to forget.
And if it wasn't for you kind of devoting your time to that, it would have been a lot bigger of a hassle.
Would you
Like
say
the-
one of the other differences, what I remember, here I stand, everybody's engaged. I was kind of isolated for at least the second turn. You were kind of reserved but building up victory points. I seem to remember, and here I stand, everybody had a war going on, or everybody, England and France were back and forth. Protestants were kind of isolated. They do their Protestant thing here, but it was not necessarily engaging with other nations. So
Now, I felt like that was the players' choices rather than the game itself.
Okay.
Yeah,
I felt like you guys made peace, and I'm like, what the heck? You know, that never happens.
Right.
And we were never at war, and just stuff like that that
Tried
we
to
made.
be. I tried.
I know, but we made decisions, conscious decisions that were outside of, I think, traditionally
Yeah.
what other people do,
Yep.
Okay.
and that changed the game, the dynamic of the
Right.
game, and I think did isolate you, because all of a sudden France didn't really give a crap about you anymore.
They were
He was-
circumnavigating the
Yeah, it's just. So I think the player agency really in this one determined the outcome and the way it felt.
Because in Here I Stand, you're pretty much limited to fighting over those keys to win the game. Whereas
Yeah.
in this, there are lots of ways to get the victory points you need.
As a player, I always look for those auto wins for the keys because I feel like that's something you can control.
It's a very direct path.
Right? You can control it, and if you plan well and get some luck, it's in your hands. The VP, I don't feel like,
Sure.
because I'm rolling dice.
No, it's nice. Yeah.
Oh, I rolled a 4. I get nothing.
And it's at the end of the turn, and you can't do anything about it
Yeah,
after that.
and but me building up my armies, saving over a card that really helped me. Man, you can pick up keys, and then when someone does something that they shouldn't, you got to strike. I mean,
Yeah, taking advantage of people's mistakes is very important.
you left these keys like, and I'm like,
Oh, I know. Well,
and
that's,
then even this one,
that's because I pushed so hard at the beginning.
I
'cause
know you didn't
had
have
it.
as much.
I had it, but I could not get
Yeah.
that final key, and then I had to pivot because religion.
But then there's also, it was the decision to, do you intervene into Venice or not?
Yeah.
And
Right.
we determined that was because that gave him a key, and it was like,
Yep.
oops.
Oops. Yeah.
Or then it was
And then I
the-
had to fight to get it back.
or it was the later on, it was, do I offer him tribute or not? You could have not, and that would have changed
It
the
would have,
dynamic of the
100%.
game. And there are those decision points like that you're like,
Yeah.
oh, those are the mouth-watering moments of those games where like it totally changes the direction of what we're doing.
So, Brian,
you,
what do you
like,
think?
you either have to like
I'm sorry.
pivot or go.
Ryan, what do you think?
Well, so this was my first game, and I haven't played Here I Stand, so I have nothing to compare that to.
And you said you're a Euro gamer.
I am
for the most
sure,
part.
yes.
So into the deep end.
So yeah, for sure. Well, all I did was try to turn it into a Euro game. So
And you got close to
make peace
victory.
with everyone, and then start doing piracy and circumnavigating and marrying people, right? No, I really enjoyed it. I thought there were lots of paths to victory. The strategy was pretty wide open. I was giving advice and saying, no, I don't want to do what you're telling me to do.
Well, we all don't listen to Mike.
For sure.
Good plan. Good plan.
But one thing that I think it did really well is tell a good story, right? There was that good narrative aspect. I mean, there was a time where I put an informant against Alex, and then he immediately turned that informant against me.
Yeah.
Just had the right card in his hand, so that worked out really well. And even the way it ended, right? Like, you two were the first, or at least the most boisterous about your alliance in the beginning, and how he was supposed to give you a bride, and he never did that, and then you conquered his
I never forgot that, Craig. Never forgot.
Hey, I didn't have a bride to give.
Well, that's easy for you to say. You could have reneged on your, could have said, no, I'm not going to marry you.
Fair
So.
enough.
I'm gonna live under his boot for generations now.
I loved also, we decided to get married, I think two of our better, I got like
you
a
hit the best,
re-roll,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you had something, but we each rolled a die, because you rolled 2d6. I rolled first, and I got a 6, and I'm like, holy crap,
Yeah.
that's great. And then you threw your French die, and it came up boxcars, and
Yeah.
we were +4, so I think we were, or actually
You
we
ended
were
up at 17.
+5,
Yeah.
17, and it
Max.
said like, the best marriage in generations, and they
Yeah.
create an enduring,
Dynasty.
legacy dynasty, and that to me is what's great about
Yeah, great
these
story.
games.
Right.
Some
Like
of the events. Go
I
ahead.
asked for Spain for a marriage, and it was the second turn, and I saw that there was an advantage for me jilting, but they also got an advantage. So I said, well, let me try something else with a card. And Spain looked at me and goes, no deal. That was the last I dealt with it. Spain's off the table.
Done. I'm done with you. You're dead to me.
I think the other thing I thought, like, and it's those cool moments that just happen organically in a game, was you were one key from victory and had a diplomacy card that you could have used in Ireland, which would have won the game if you would have done that.
It would have come down to a roll-off.
Right.
And I would have been +1 more than everybody else, but I was sitting there going, I was kind of like, ooh, I'm going to do this immediately. And you played the Revolution.
And mixed it.
Oh
So
my
you were
God.
about to
And
start
that killed-
the.
I was going to roll, and I would
Wow.
have been +3. You guys would have been +2. So I felt like, okay, it's going to be a roll-off. But had I won that, bam, my key would have been down.
And
So,
then that's because you only do diplomacy on each country once. That
Yeah.
was done with.
and very interesting.
But it was like because we did talk about the rules of like, oh yeah, you can do this, and then you played that. It was like,
and that's the way it is,
Yeah.
right? It's about reaction
Yes.
and changing your
And-
plans on the fly.
yeah. But that's like blind luck that he had that card
Yeah,
and
yeah.
played it first.
Yep.
It is like you couldn't have made that up.
To me, one of the memorable moments, we had an argument kind of in the set. It was not an argument really, but
We yelled at each other.
we yelled at each other. But later on, you gave me a card, and
Yeah.
I was able to throw you a bone where you rolled extra dice in a naval battle to crush my enemy over here, Craig.
And it was
who
all
I never forgot.
impromptu, all ad hoc. Like we
Yeah.
hadn't even talked about that. We just saw an opportunity.
And it was just, but
Kind of
that's
olive
what
branch.
makes this game, in my opinion, the best experiential war game out there.
Yes, with the
The
wheel
Here
and
I
the
Stand,
DM.
Virgin Queen, it's just phenomenal.
So the mandatory events can really disrupt your plans. The
Yep.
reaction cards you can play.
Combat cards.
Yeah.
Combat cards,
So,
yeah.
so a lot of things you can't really plan for. Like you said, you got to react to them and you just
Yeah.
have to adapt.
I actually had a really good card, and they were both laughing because I hadn't used it to take
Oh, it's
head
torturing me.
But I decided that I was going to use my fleet with 4 extra dice, and I was going to go down there and crush the Armada.
Yeah.
And it would have been fun. I don't know if
yeah,
I
that
would've-
would have been a great
it would've-
battle.
I would
That
have
would've
loved to
been
do.
very
And I got
cool.
Sir Francis Drake on top. I've got a stack of ships.
Let's talk about when the first time you went after that siege. So it's like the third time actually, but the first time this turn when you had that extra die card and you went at him with 3 and 2, and
Yeah.
you lose 2,
Yeah.
and you didn't use that card I was just losing my mind.
I was set. I was set
And
on
you were
it.
set on the plan. and Good for you because you pulled it off.
But I
Different
moved more
avenue.
troops up on
Yeah.
the next impulse and was able to do
Yeah.
it that next. And it didn't affect anything for points because it
not at
wasn't the
all.
end of the turn.
You're right.
Other than it cost me
Yeah.
a few extra troops.
Great game.
So the question is,
Yeah.
would you play this again?
I would, and I feel like I would be much more confident.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
first
yeah.
turn, if I can be honest, I was completely over.
Oh, it's so.
Oh,
yeah.
yes, we all were when
That's
we
the
played
correct
it first,
reaction.
too.
I had no idea what kind of
Yeah.
strategic approach to use. I had no idea. Yeah, really.
And I'm not sure we helped you in that regard.
And
We,
that's
that was
okay.
Mike. We
Yeah.
should have. Mike was the referee.
Yeah.
Was I not speaking to him and brought it off to the side?
But
You heard him say
obviously
didn't
he
wanna take
said
my
he didn't
advice.
want to listen to you.
Yeah.
So obviously there was not good discussion.
I'm sorry, Brian, did you win?
You told me what? No, I didn't.
Okay, well there you go.
You should have listened to it. Yeah, I felt bad that we didn't help you more in the beginning, but I think we all remember the sink or swim moment
Oh, yeah.
with this
That's
game.
definitely-
Remember you and I played the 2-player Holy War scenario
Oh,
for
we were
Here I
just like-
Stand First, and we had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out the mechanics. It was
Yeah,
like,
but once we got it, I was like, man, there's something here.
Mm-hmm.
And then we played with you and Mike for the first time 4-player. That also had some memorable
There
No, they
was-
didn't have anything.
different kind of memorable.
I remember after that, my confidence started being like, oh, I understand this game. I get it. And now we've played
But like
4 or 5 other times.
I remember that
and-
first time we played it 4-player, and we played it for a good number of hours, and it kind of ended, and it was like,
It ended when I won.
But he had to leave.
I had to leave and I felt
But it was like, I was like, yes, I'm sold. And we were looking for every opportunity
Yeah.
to try and play. It was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
we're taking this to conventions where we're going to blunder our way through it. And Basement Con.
Oh, yeah.
And we play it now so many different
Have you
ways.
played with every single nation in play? Or?
I have not.
No, I've
And-
still
So did that
and-
add?
Well, learning it, the HRE was a very different experience because I have played England and Spain in Virgin Queen. We've played 3 times.
Yeah, I played Protestants twice in HRE. So I've got a lot more to do in here.
Yeah.
And here I stand, I've played a lot of them.
I have not played the Ottomans. That's the only one I
I
haven't
think
played.
I think
Here
the
I stand.
papacy is the only one I haven't played
Yeah.
for them.
So about the amount of help we gave you, I'm not sure any of us are qualified to tell you how to play French.
Oh, yeah,
that's
100%.
one of the hardest. One of the
Yeah,
hardest
they're
factions
tough.
to play.
And the other part of that is you play France. The next time you play a different faction, go do it all over again.
Yeah, you gotta
it's,
learn it.
it's totally different.
But you do start to understand how it all fits together, I think.
Yeah,
you
you
do
s-
also start to kind of see or insight into others' factions. And
yeah, you saw what everyone else was doing, what was
Yeah.
successful, what wasn't.
Right.
So you do gain, and I think that experience builds on itself and creates a deeper, richer, even more fulfilling experience.
Right.
And I think with a game like this, you have to ride out the early turns because, we talked about how things were going to change in turn 3, where now you've got espionage and
Yeah.
a whole new set of systems open up.
And
More leaders.
Yeah, right,
what's
yeah,
espionage,
right.
yeah.
But see, you can't get to that without getting through those, the early turns. But the dynamics of the game can really change because of those things
And the more leaders.
and the different leaders.
And you did well.
Yeah.
You did well, Brian.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
Cool.
I had some fleeting thoughts of assassination, but
So that's the one thing I would say about this game. They've got this big old espionage stuff that turns
Yeah.
up in turn 3, and it is.
It's just expensive.
It's extremely hard to commit resources to that when you're already tight, and the game at that point
It's
is so
late.
advanced that you're
Yes.
like, I'm good.
I'm
The
not
only
so
time
sure.
I've seen
I got wars to fight.
And what do you get
Nate's-
from
Nate's gunpowder plot, Spain.
Yeah,
against
last
England,
time we played
that
4
was
years
the
ago.
most dramatic,
Oh, it was awesome.
furthest advanced because he did it twice.
Yep.
That I've seen.
How did you do
that
it twice
espionage
that
system
year?
get there.
It,
Well-
didn't- it was one turn.
One
and
was
the
a
second turn.
but didn't you have a card that allowed you?
Yeah,
to do it?
so the first time I tried it, and I polluted England with Jesuits. And,
Oh, it was terrible.
Right, it was a
Yeah.
lot going on. But yeah, then there was that card that enabled it, and I drew that on the very next turn. I couldn't believe it. Like everything
Yeah, it
lined
was
up
just-
even better the second time.
Yeah,
except
yeah.
for my die rolls.
And you still fail. Yeah.
Nice stuff.
But
that was such a
massive
memorable
investment.
moment.
Oh, we were all
yeah,
breathless. I mean, we were
Yeah.
just like, yeah, we were on.
But what did it do to England? Were they affected?
Well, it
any
would've
part of
ended-
the
it
game?
would've
It
ended
won
the
the
game.
It was an auto.
Right.
Would have been an auto win
Yeah.
for.
And he rolled
for
just
Spain.
short of the number of hits he needed.
And ultimately, I don't remember who won that year. It wasn't me. I don't think it was Spain. I just don't remember.
Probably the stupid French.
Probably.
It wasn't the French. I remember that.
It was because that was your son. He made some
Yeah.
tactical.
Ryan upstairs when he
Oh, it was Craig. Craig won. He was the Protestants.
That's
Yes, right. And
Oh,
we,
yeah.
and we
Even
had-
though we did it, I was
we called
very
it.
too
Well, I
aggressive.
think we called it. I didn't technically win, but we called it because you had been attacking me
And you
multiple
would have
times.
won because
Yes.
I was cheating.
Yes.
I can admit it.
We'll blame Mike. He misread the rules.
Ignorant.
I think that's the other thing about the game, and you heard us say it. You forget this modifier.
Yeah.
You forget drawing an extra card.
Yes.
Hold on.
I don't ever see us playing this game perfectly. It's not
so
possible.
difficult.
I do
It'd be a
think.
magic moment.
Yeah, it would be
It'd
amazing.
be amazing.
But
But we're seeing the benefit of playing together because
Sure.
we have those memories of those moments where we make a rules mistake that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And we remind each other every time we
Like,
play, like we don't make the
copy
same
that.
mistakes
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah.
I did remember this year you had to put the control markers down to because I remember a couple. I was like just moving all over the board, not doing it, and I'm like, I did that this year. Others in the group did not do it, but that's okay. Yeah, great game. I appreciate the friendship we've built just over
yeah.
these It's been a great time. That's why we keep coming, right?
It's amazing
Yeah.
we're still friends.
Yeah.
That's just it. It's heat during the game, and afterwards it's like, oh, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great time.
But yeah, thanks for hosting, Mike, and thanks
course.
everyone for sitting down
100%.
for 9 hours.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for watching.